the Town Manager Act Review Committee meeting. First order of business will be review and approval of August 10th and August 24th meeting minutes. If folks on the committee can go through that. The August 10th's right in the front. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions on that? Let's just get through this quickly.
Nope.
I entertain some motions.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 10th, 2017.
Have that motioned and seconded to approve the August 10th meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh, yeah,
Abstained.
That's right.
you weren't there.
You and I weren't there.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of August 24th, 2017.
Correct that.
I have them.
Have Deb correct it. Sorry.
Oh, there's a motion already to accept the meeting minutes of August 24th. Can everybody take the time, or they would need any time to go through those, or not?
Nope, I can second it.
We have it seconded. Any further discussion? Does it appear so? Seeing no, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Nothing. It carries.
We were here. We made the motion.
Next package.
I'm trying to figure out who's at what meeting, if they can vote or not, that's all.
Oh, that's right, August 10th was a short.
You were here.
Right.
Short meeting, we were here.
You were here.
Right,
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
right. Cool. I'm so confused now, I don't know where I'm going.
So there's a packet that was for the selectmen in there. There's a 2-page background that I was asked to put together in fairly short order by the executive assistant from the Board of Selectmen, Sandy Hakala, to give an update. As part of that, Bob Fleming has requested me to have him come and address the committee, but I want to go through first the background. What I put together essentially, if the committee can see, was just a bulleted summary of our progress.
Yes.
It was just a progress update. As everybody in the committee knows, Steve Racketon had taken time to start drafting some actually more report content. That, of course, is not really appropriate to forward that until we had a draft of something that everybody in the committee would see. So I put this quick bulleted list together and asked our approved bylaws from the 24th, including the draft ones from the draft from the August 24th and the approved ones from July 27th to be put in there so the selectmen could see what we've gone through. And then I kind of had a bulleted list of some of the action items and follow up with the board, some obvious things that we have and have not done. There's an error in here that I have to apologize to Deb and Kelly McEverett and Sandy Akala. I was actually on a different screen. I work on several screens at work. And one day finishing up work, I was looking at the thing. I thought the meeting minutes were not posted. I couldn't see them. So they have actually been posted up there very quickly and diligently by Deb. So interesting enough, it's just because of the way the text boxes work. So there's a line in there that talks about not being on the town website. That is absolutely not correct. And that is an error on my part for doing that. So any other questions about the 2-page discussion or bullets? Because I know that, to my understanding, the selectmen tabled it at their last meeting.
So they could review it and discuss it, as I recall.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of information with all our meeting notes.
You know, I thought, Mr. Chairman, that we were going to be able to see this before it went out.
Yeah, and my error in the sense that it was given to me as a task just before the Labor Day weekend, and I had basically not gotten it to the full committee with the intent. My intent wasn't to not do anything. That's why I kept it simple to just an update and a summary of the bulleted efforts we have as a committee for things that go forward that are related to discussions and deliberations that are not done in our meeting minutes. You know, that absolutely can't go on. So I apologize to the committee for not doing that.
Well, that was a motion by this committee that you do so, that you let us see this before it went out.
Correct. And I said I apologize for that.
Just as a note, so going forward, just, and there may be occasions when the same thing occurs, when the window of opportunity to respond to something is very short. And what I would recommend, the next time if it happens again, just make sure you copy all the committee members when it
Correct.
goes out.
I think what I'm going to do in those coordinations tours, I'm going to run through Deb, so that basically she can keep me straight. So,
Just a point of reference, that way
yep.
everybody.
Anybody have any questions on that bulleted summary?
No.
He's got a red light
I've got a red light over here.
already, so.
These are ours.
So any other questions about the two-page write-up, things that should be added or considered since the selectmen hadn't taken up their business? Okay. Next item on the agenda would be Mr. Fleming.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully ask that you refer to Mr. Fleming as Selectman Fleming.
I'm
I think
sorry,
he's earned that right over the years, and I
Yes,
believe he's
yeah,
chairman
absolutely.
also. Thank you.
Chairman Fleming. I apologize, I didn't realize that. I thought maybe he was, didn't know he was coming on behalf of the board.
Welcome.
Learning a lot.
He's gonna mic, how about if he bobs you, or
I apologize, Bob, for not referring to you as Chairman Fleming. Chairman Fleming.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on your agenda tonight. I have a number of things to go over, and primarily it's the process of where we are to date. As you know, there was a citizen's petition, and the Board of Selectmen agreed that if the citizen petition was withdrawn or did not go forward, we would form a committee. We feel very pleased with the committee we formed because of its diversity. In that committee, we have former selectmen, we have citizens at large, we have people that have served on other committees. I think of, Scott Van Ralton and certainly others who are citizens that are very active in the community, and they lend a lot of objective opinion outside of the normal political agenda. So we are very pleased to have you as part of this committee. There's a tremendous amount of intellectual knowledge and certainly experience that lends itself to this review. One of the things that we do feel, and when we agreed with the citizen petition, is that to have a review every 5 or 6 years would be more than responsible. I think we should do that. It's a matter of ensuring that the Town Manager Act stays consistent with the needs of the people of the town of Upton. So through this, and as an observer, although I have not attended your meetings, I'm certainly aware. You can obviously stream them, and as it goes, you get a lot of input from people, and you decipher what's reality and what isn't, and I take that for what it's worth. So you've had a tremendous opportunity in that you've had a former town manager, you've had former selectmen, you've had present selectmen attend and to participate in this process and to ask questions, inquire, and seek their information and knowledge. We provided you with a recorder, and when the funding ran short, we kept that funding going. We feel it's important that the meeting be accurate and the records be accurate as well. To be clear, and people don't like this, but you are a committee appointed by the Board of Selectmen. It is our responsibility to make sure that the committee functions as a committee should. You are not a committee independent of town government. You are town government, and I need to stress that. So our initial proposal was to have a review ready for the November town meeting. And we would like to ask you if you could complete by October 13th your findings. And the rationale is that you've had almost 6 months to date, and we provided you whatever resources you've needed. There was a statement by the chair, and I don't know if it's a consensus, but that there was consideration to request that it be postponed to the annual town meeting. If that's correct, the Board of Selectmen is not in agreement. We accepted your mission statement that said a fall town meeting, so we're staying to that as consistency. With your final report, which we will have to submit to council, that's why we need time before the meeting. anything of this magnitude that would change any of our laws has to go to council to be reviewed. And we would ask that that final report be fact-based with detailed rationale as to your recommendations and the reasons why, that it be a majority vote of the committee. And one of the confusions is that, and Dan, you alluded to it, Mr. Chairman, I should say, was that you wanted to be sure there was a quorum. Well, in any meeting process, as long as you have a majority, you're allowed to take action. The only differential would be if it's something of real magnitude, such as the final review, it would make sense to have all members present. So as to date, we want to be sure that everybody has what they need to keep this process going, because we do have a deadline to meet. Are there any questions that I can answer? Yeah.
What's the date that you need, drop dead date, so you can get?
We would like October 13th. That gives us 4 weeks, a month to
So basically,
prepare. And we have to post the warrant 2 weeks before the meeting.
So you want the report, final report to you by October 13th?
That gives us
Voting.
2 weeks to review
Okay.
the council, for us to look at it and do everything. Yep.
Okay.
So, and of course, we haven't, to this point, we haven't had a chance to discuss, and I'll get into that, any of the information you provided to us, because, again, we can't discuss it unless we're in session. So I have a fellow selectman here, and he and I have an agreement, we won't even get in discussion tonight, because I didn't know he was coming, and we'd have to post otherwise. The law is very stringent, which brings me to the open meeting law. I have a concern. I don't know if there's a full understanding of what the law requires of this committee, and to be candid, people need to be aware of what it means and what it involves. Your decorum follows under Robert's Rules of Order. That's consistent with most committees and organizations. The town of Upton defers to that. It's its primary purpose, even through our town meetings. But the chair runs the meeting for the purpose solely of organization, decorum, and posting of minutes. The committee is the only organization that can release any information. There is no information that should come out of this committee that I would call rogue. Simply put, any personal opinions that are submitted, such as was submitted in the last documentation, is in no other term embarrassing. It should not come out of this committee, especially when the committee members were not aware of it and it was just submitted to the selectmen without a consensus of this committee. All members on this committee are entitled to have input on any documentation such as that. Decisions and discussions should be confined to being within session. They are not to be made out on the street. The chair called me, and you probably wonder why I was so short. The reason is I did not want to tiptoe through that potential of saying something that could conflict with the open meeting law. If you and I said, yes, let's do this, and we're going to go forward with that, we tiptoe on breaking the law. So I always am very cautious of that. I've had enough challenges. I don't need more. Conversations outside this meeting are a violation. If two members meet and they say, hey, I have an idea, why don't we do this and do that? That's a violation of the law. You're not allowed to do that. You're only allowed to do it in this meeting when you're posted. So no independent decisions, certainly. The other thing is your meetings, I would ask that you post them as soon as possible. Your meetings have been posted within the 48 hours, but they're in the 11th hour. And in fairness to the citizens, they need time to see your postings. If they are posted 48 hours ahead, it doesn't really give them the opportunity to review and look on the town website and say, oh, they have an entitlement to get as much information as possible. If you don't have the agenda totally completed, you have the ability to amend it as long as it's amended within the 48 hours, but at least the people know there's a meeting. And as I stated, a quorum is required for all actions. You're well aware of that. I would think the last and the final act is that all members should be present. It's an important, you've labored through this for 6 months. I think it's fair that everybody participates in that final vote and has a say. So, although I may sound a little abrupt, my only concern is that this is done correctly, it's done right, it was requested. We have filled our part of the bargain. We want to make sure that you have the tools to do what you need, but I just want to make sure that there are no challenges at a future time where a citizen can come forward and say, this wasn't done right and there was a failure of the protocol. Then everything you've done is for naught, and that would be a shame for all of us. So, you know, group dynamics are tough. You know, forming, storming, norming, performing. The storming part's usually the roughest, but if you're not candid with each other, nothing gets done. So I am here to lend a hand. Anything I bring back to the board, anything that you people want, any information you need, we will provide it. I think we've tried to extend ourselves as much as possible to this point. So, Mr. Chairman?
I appreciate that. Thank you for the comments and the direction, and I think I'll speak for myself. I absolutely would love to get this effort done and accomplished. We had 2 committee meetings on the 24th of August and the 27th of July, and in both situations, we had citizens who did attend those meetings, and they appreciated the spirited discussion and the things that were brought up. There needs to be one more session along that line. I would agree completely with your statement about making sure that everybody who's taken the time to step forward to do this is here for that final vote and can be part of those deliberations, because I think that is very important. From the committee standpoint, there's been a few of us that have been able to make all the meetings. There's been quite a few of us that could not because it was summertime, and I know that we've had a lot of these folks move schedules around. All of our dates for the committee were out well in advance, but I think I agree with you that putting this posting up a week or 2 ahead of time would be very helpful to make sure these last 2 meetings, because to your point, the rubber's hitting the road. A lot of information's out there, and this is the time that we want everybody to see it, understand it, and understand what this committee's been doing working. So I totally agree with that. I can't speak specifically to the 13th of October, which is a month away. I don't think it's not attainable, but it's going to take some effort. I know early on in the session, when we first started, the selectmen had offered a work session. I think that I would probably have a discussion with this committee about having a posted work session with the selectmen regarding a report and regarding a structure of that effort. So that would be the only thing that I would ask quickly. I don't know if you have a quick follow-up to that.
No, my only comment is, I know it's a tough timeline. There's a gentleman sitting in the back row that knows what crunch time is on the Finance Committee. Sometimes it can be very difficult, but this is one of those, we want to capture it while it's here. What tends to happen is, over a period of time, when committees are established for too long, members start to drop off the committee for reasons, whether personal or whatever, and the membership wanes, and it's best to take action within the first 6 months. And as far as cooperation, I will speak for myself. I can't speak for my colleagues, but certainly I would extend myself where possible. If you wish, I will make a commitment to attend every one of your meetings going forward to the end. If you have questions, I will sit there. I attended a previous meeting. I was open to any questions that were there. Again, being honest, I didn't think there were that many questions. I was surprised. I expected more in-depth questions to come forward. But I'm open to that, and I think my colleagues would be as well. We had a former town manager that was interim in here, and he spent 30 years of his life as a town manager, a great resource. I don't know if you spoke to him, but he certainly said he'd make himself available. He spent 12 years in Leicester, 5 years in this town. I mean, such a broad knowledge. That's really invaluable to this committee, to get how different towns do things and how different managers operate. So, again, we have town council to get the information to, so we want to make sure that we get it within that 2 weeks, and we have time to review it as well. Again, we can't look at it till we're posted. We could always call a meeting and do it, just specifically for that. That's not beyond us, but, you know.
Sure.
But that's kind of where we're at. So, if I haven't extended it enough, we're trying to say we will give you what you need, provided we can meet that deadline.
Okay.
That's our goal. And again, you know, I can't stop saying it, but this has to stay within the committee, because when messages start going out at random, it disrupts your credibility, and we as the appointing authority, it disrupts ours. You can't have that. You really can't. It has to be a vote of this committee on all actions that leave this table. So,
Absolutely.
anything else?
So you would be available to sit down with us and make sure we have the verbiage in a manner that's consistent with what you need?
Whatever you want, we will try and extend, whether it's documentation, information.
Well, I think it's just a case of wording in such a way, because you have several years of experience putting together a warrant, and this is going to go on the warrant, so we want to make sure that we first pass we get it done.
I get it. After 30 years, that's why nobody likes me anymore. I get used to it.
Well,
So it's a tough job.
It's a
but-
justification.
Yeah. So, but, you know, the important thing is the citizens get what they want, and that's the bottom line to all of this. We're only as important as what the outcome is.
Well, our mission statement is very clear that we're to review the act and make any recommendations.
Anything anybody else has while I'm here, Mr. Chairman? No?
Anything else in the committee?
Okay, well, thank you for the time, and as you post, I'll make the commitment to be here barring some unforeseen disaster, but I will make a real attempt at being at all your meetings for
Thank you.
purposes of assistance. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before we leave that item, on 1013, I know that 2 committee members to date have been willing to do a work session that we could schedule with the selectmen as necessary to start the effort of report writing and other things that are a little less tedious, or a little more tedious than sitting in a meeting doing things. So I know that one of those members has had to step back from that because of a situation. So I'm looking for somebody else in the committee that would be willing to do that. I'm looking at you, Debbie, sorry. Only because I think some of the language of some of the things we're talking about, recommendations related to bylaws, kind of fit into your expertise.
It certainly does.
So, I won't put you on the spot, but I guess I am putting you on the
I'll
spot.
give-
Thank you. So we're gonna, if anybody in the committee has a concern about that,
Well, no, anything that
We're
you
gonna
guys put together, it's a
swap
a
You
subcommittee.
have to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so
Right.
once you guys put it together, then we.
so we're just gonna swap that one member out for Debbie and
Well,
we'll,
I'm not sure, I'm
schedule.
not sure that he's not gonna be available. All I can tell you is tonight he wasn't.
yeah, I actually emailed him and he said that he may not be available in
Okay.
the near future. So I fully understand that, so I'll check with him. And actually, if there's any problem, I'll just communicate, say you're willing to step in.
Sure.
Perfect. And we'll go from there.
But also suggest that we may have to have more than one meeting a week. And we should find out with more than one meeting a week if we're gonna make the deadline. That may be the case, but that's number one. Number two is, we might ask when's most convenient for the Board of Selectmen, or Bob specifically, or whoever on the board wants to attend, what's the most convenient time for them to meet? They may want to meet after their selectmen meeting.
Correct.
They may want to do that, so we should check with the board, the selectmen, to see what's most convenient for them also. Because they're always meeting, so, isn't that right?
We do have a member of the board with us, Mr. Battalion. Sure, I'd appreciate that. If you could take a minute to talk about the assisting that effort.
All right.
And what you think would make sense in addition to what the chair had offered.
Again, I'd say, I'm not sure if we want to tie it in after a meeting. I mean, the way the meetings have been going lately, we've had executive session, we've had other details that have come up, and the meetings are running pretty late. So our Tuesday night meetings, a lot of times, sometimes it's 8:30 or so. Really?
8:30?
8:39, yeah.
Wow.
9 o'clock?
Don't get them started,
Wow.
please, Steve.
I don't know. Whatever
There was no
stories,
town manager to help these guys, they had long days.
with all respect to your stories, Al, I'm sure Dick has some horror stories that bring it even later into the night.
I would say. But anyway.
But anyways, yeah.
It would be, and what I'm trying to do is make it convenient for the board, so when you get together, we can roll right into something else, so it's not a show up at the town hall again the next night or the night after. I mean, I understand that.
I would say hypothetically, and I can't speak for the other two gentlemen, but I would say hypothetically, it would probably have to be just a standalone date, would be my thinking. I just don't think,
Weekday night, probably the best.
yeah.
We had talked originally about a Saturday morning, which originally was working for a few people, but I'm not sure that's gonna work at this point, so.
I'm in the groove, as far as weekend night meetings, I seem to have, they pop up a couple of weeks, so
Okay.
it's
So-
no problem.
I will probably email the board, once I email the 3 of us that are on the subcommittee, a bunch of dates in the next 2 weeks, and evening dates.
And Saturdays and Sundays are not necessarily looked positively on by the state,
Right.
Saturdays and Sundays, so.
It works for me, because sometimes on the duty officer
they're open
weekend, it
meetings.
starts at 6
Number
o'clock on
one.
Friday night, ends on 7
number
o'clock
one,
on Monday
yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
So I'm up to get my undivided attention for the
They
entire
count, the
week.
state counts those as work days, Monday through Friday. They don't count, when they count, they don't count Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
So-
typically a Wednesday night is tough for me, so, if you're asking my preference, I would say, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yep, okay.
That would be my preference.
Unfortunately, Thursdays, we have 2 Thursdays a
Yeah.
month.
So I'll put out an email.
Thursdays don't work.
Every other? or-
Yeah, but we can move those Thursdays around to match up what's available, what the committee decides on.
Well, there's two things. There's committee meetings and there's subcommittee meetings to create content. I've learned from working on many committees that there's a group of folks that have to get together to, as authorized by the committee, to create content for the committee to act on. So
Okay.
unless we all want to have a laptop session, as we refer to it at work, where everybody shows up with a laptop ready to start typing. But I'm not sure that everybody's interested in that. So I will get back with an email tonight before I leave to those groups of folks. Like I said, I got an email back from one of the members that they couldn't do it, so.
Should we set, while we're setting meetings, why don't we set our next meeting so we can get that posted very quickly?
We have a meeting on the 21st for Board of Health, right?
Yes.
So,
Selectmen's meeting on Tuesday. Board of Health is Thursday?
Thursday, the 21st.
so really, let's just talk about Thursday nights, because that's.
Can't do Thursday nights.
Board of Health has a meeting.
We have a meeting on a Thursday night.
Every Thursday night?
Every other
That's
Thursday
the
night.
other Thursday.
So the 21st and the 5th will be meeting nights for us. So if we could have, if we have it during the week of the 21st, then we could do it on the 20th. I don't think anybody wants to meet on a Friday, which is the 22nd.
No.
I wouldn't be able to make the 20th, it's a high Jewish holiday.
Oh, it,
Can I ask,
Sorry.
can I
You
ask,
have a quorum, you're gonna have a necessity to meet very quickly and get things done, so as long as there's a quorum, I think
Okay.
that's more important.
okay. If we could do it, is everybody okay with the 20th? You're on vacation.
yeah,
Sorry about that.
she's the most important person
I
in this
know.
entire equation to check her calendar.
20th.
Have you ever worked off of a tape?
I can watch the meeting.
Oh, okay.
I think, I would agree that she's
Have you
important.
ever worked off a
20th
tape?
is in next week?
Quick question for the committee first, because I think there's two dates to stay away from the Board of Health, which is Thursday night the 28th.
No, Thursday night, the 21st.
I'm sorry,
And
I'm
the
not,
5th.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
Thursday night the 28th being open. I know that I can do that. I can do October 5th too. So we have two back to back.
I can't have.
That's the 5th, okay.
5th. So how about,
Can we do the 28th? Can we pick that one? Just to stay on our Thursday nights?
the 28th 's fine.
I can, yes.
Yeah.
28th's good.
Are you on vacation on the 28th?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still on vacation?
No, I'm sorry, you have to cancel it.
When
I
are you
don't
coming
think
back?
so.
When are you coming
When are you back?
30th.
30th.
You know, Mr. Chairman, many committees have somebody just writes down the material, important things that are stated. So again, since it's such a small period of time to get this accomplished, I think you should take advantage of perhaps somebody volunteering to take.
We have the subcommittee. The three of us have volunteered to
Just-
take that.
Just the highlights.
And we're gonna post a subcommittee meeting so everybody knows we're meeting. And we're gonna get together and break up a game plan to do the effort of the work. So we can, each of us can go out and do our work and come back
Okay.
and correlate.
Well, you keep pretty good notes. Highlights.
You clearly want to write, don't you?
No, homie, don't do that.
Well,
Homie writes it
then I
down.
guess you don't have a,
I can still
have a say
do
right at the
them with
moment.
tape.
Yeah,
Pardon?
I can still do them with tape.
correct. No, we were talking about the subcommittee effort.
Oh, the 30, oh, yeah, yeah, right, so the 28th, you do them off the tape, so it's not because you'll be back on the
Back
30th.
on the 30th.
Yeah.
If that works for the majority of parties, I think, as you stated, the 28th may be the last best chance
Yeah,
to give you enough lead time, get enough input, get enough lead time to make that deadline.
How quickly is the tape available, Glenn?
Okay.
So,
No
we're,
problem.
Tom, tape is not a problem then? Great. Okay, so it's the 28th.
28th is one of the dates.
So let's post for the 7 o'clock on the 28th?
Yep.
7?
7 o'clock.
7 PM, I think summertime we were doing earlier, but I know that it's more difficult for me in the fall.
Can you post that tomorrow? 7 o'clock on the 28th?
Well, she can't post until we do an agenda.
Well, you can post the meeting, and the agenda can
Right.
be added,
Okay.
you can post the
Because the
meeting.
selectmen's
Put the date
meeting
out
is
there.
posted, but there's no agenda
Agenda,
yet.
right.
Okay, have to get the agenda up before 48 hours.
Right.
48 hours.
But
to
the
agenda.
meeting can be posted just as a meeting.
So we got one down.
And so, does anybody have any availability the week of the 18th?
I do.
18th.
One boring.
Next
person.
Wednesday.
Oh,
It's Thursday, yeah.
I'm gonna be out of town the 18th through the 20th.
Same here, I got commitments.
Okay, so the week of the 18th is shot, so we can't do that. And you and, you guys are gonna, the subcommittee's gonna get together sometime between now and the 28th?
28th.
Yeah,
Oh, great, great,
absolutely.
okay. So the 20th, pardon?
Does that need to be posted?
I will
No.
post that.
Well, no, the 28th needs to be posted.
But the subcommittee
Subcommittee doesn't need to be posted.
You don't have to post,
No,
Oh, okay.
so we won't, if that's not a problem.
no, you don't have to post that.
Okay.
I think that's enough right now.
Yeah, and what I'll do,
28th will drive the rest of
because
it.
we still have one member, I'll put out an email if everybody can look at that. I will put a bunch of dates together. And Al, if you can stay back, we'll talk about some dates on some
Sure.
stuff. And we'll go from there.
Sure.
So just to be clear, you've set the 28th at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then we'll try to get another date or two if necessary.
Well, at the meeting on the 28th,
Well, you know what, one of the things that's really important, I think we could do, if the committee's up to it, because our deadline's Friday the 13th,
Right.
good date. Maybe we should ask the selectmen for 16th. They probably don't want that because they
No,
want to
they
warrant.
won't- no, they won't.
I learned that their deadline of putting their agenda together is Friday, so that's why.
that's Friday the 13th.
Why don't we actually schedule October 12th?
Okay.
Because
No,
that'll be looking at a final thing.
Okay.
If we have clerical edits, any kind of stuff like that, that'll do. So I think the 12th.
So we post it, we'll post the 12th also. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
And then we'll get the other ones infilled as we go from there. Any other questions about that?
So that gives us the week, the 28th and the 12th to finalize it. I don't think that's enough time. We're gonna have to meet the first week in October
Yeah,
sometime.
we do.
So I'd ask everybody to look at their calendars. You can give us a feedback on it.
7th is out because you have a Board of Health, right?
The 5th of October is out.
5th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at September, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
So anytime, and I'll make myself available anytime, although Tuesdays are not my best time, but I'll do it then too.
So
So we'll have a
Please,
first, we'll
please
have,
get back to us on, I know that I have availability the 4th and 5th of October. Everybody has that?
5th,
4th and 5th?
4th? I'm fine,
Fourth.
I'm open.
4th?
so.
4th,
I have a meeting on the 4th.
how about the 3rd?
I have a meeting on the 3rd and the 4th. The
Yeah,
5th,
that's
I'm
a
good.
CPC, and,
Yeah,
yeah,
public hearings.
we cannot,
Well, we're gonna have to do something on the 3rd or the 4th. Or the, I mean, if it's the 5th,
Just
you and I.
schedule a date. If people can't make it, they can't make
Yeah.
it.
No, I
What's the 4th?
What's wrong with
understand
the
that,
5th?
Alan, but we're trying to get as many people as we can.
What's wrong with the
I understand
5th?
that too, but
Board of Health. So I guess,
3rd?
Wednesday CPC,
Okay, well,
That's
well,
4th.
maybe we can
oh, you
move our
got two
meeting.
committees.
Can we move our meeting to the 4th? No, what do you got?
CPC,
What, no, what do we have on the 3rd? Can we move our select board meeting to
Yeah.
the 3rd?
3rd.
Okay, well, okay, why don't we target the 5th, and we'll try and move our Board of Health meeting to the 3rd.
Appreciate that. I think that'll make it easier for all of us that are on the 5th. So we have 3 dates, which I think we're good. Between that and the subcommittee's efforts, I think we will have stuff.
Okay.
We'll have content in the form of a report. Number 3 on the agenda was update on progress of the town manager direct report survey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to that. Oh, no, I have a survey update that was I asked for. So I will create it. Basically, I don't have an update, so
Okay.
I'll have to get back. We'll have to table that one.
We had only had, I think, 7 responses. We sent out a reminder to get additional responses.
How many
Okay.
responses?
We had 7 responses.
And how many went out? How many people got it
Uh,
or were sent?
We had a total of, let's see, I think we had 75. And, but we sent out a reminder to solicit responses.
With a deadline, or was it just, please complete it?
Yeah, not with a deadline, but that actually, maybe we can do that.
Why don't coordinate with the executive secretary to put out or executive assistant to put out a deadline saying the survey's going to close at.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Thanks, Scott, for bringing us. Your
Doesn't do us
point
any
just
good
brought it up.
on the 14th of October. Just-
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And I think you can tell them pretty much to close that next week. There's be no reason to have it if anything else doesn't come back. Okay,
Moving it to the 4th.
What's that?
that's the update. 4th item on the agenda tonight is old business, second reading of the committee-held lines and table lines of the TMA. In your package that Deb has put together. Have some of that accomplished.
May I ask that everybody speak loud?
Okay.
No, can you turn that off?
No, it's too hot.
We can't,
Yeah.
come on. That happened during the selectmen's meeting too. I couldn't hear what
Well, there's a reason they do that.
was saying.
That's a reason
So
they
you
do
can't hear it.
Right, right, that's why you have the air conditioner on during the meeting, so no one can hear you.
Because I won't hear it on the tape.
Right,
Right,
it's too loud,
that's,
I
well,
know.
that's good.
So what you have in your package quickly is what was discussed about, but didn't have any language. On line 209, we had a discussion about how other communities in their special acts have sections that ours does not have. So I had taken a homework assignment out of that meeting to take these 2 sections. One was the elected officials discussion we had. And everybody needs to look at this and read it and digest it and sleep on it. This was my pass at putting together something that does not change our town government at all. It just outlines how our elected officials are organized in the town of Upton and how we are structured by our general bylaws, with the exception of one item. If you look at the second bullet at the bottom, that was the discussion that we actually had in the open. So I'm on the one with the highlighted. Everybody can see. The only thing that was a discussion point, and Al, I'd appreciate you to give an update from that discussion we had before. What we do not have is, the last bullet says, notwithstanding the election of voters of the town officers named in the section, 2 through such and such officers shall be available to the town manager and board of selectmen for consultation, conference, discussion on matters related to officers' respective offices. When you go from that sentence up, this, from my understanding and looking at our bylaws, it has nothing to do with any change in our government other than just summarizing to go into the act how our government operates. The last sentence would be a change, because our current act says that all elected officials are exempt from the Town Manager Act. In this last sentence, there's a sentence that I put in there coming from the town of Cohasset and the town of Groton and the town of West Newbury, where it just says, the town manager may require all such officials to prepare reports necessary for the administration of town government. I think in this discussion we've had in the committee, I think we're all talking about that's how our government works. But I know I'm looking at specifically the three former selectmen who know and have been giving us a civics lessons, for those of us who haven't served in elected office, how that actually really works. And
Well,
I know in the last meeting we got into discussion about the
Here's-
selectmen's manual, which I think kind
here's-
of left us all a little confused.
I can see how officials who are not involved in the hiring of this individual and are elected by the community are going to perhaps have their hair stand up on their neck, not, you know, have to somehow report to this person or interact with this person.
that's not the way, that's right, I mean, that's really not the way the government works. But in a more global, more global sense, I'm a little confused about this, because our charge is to look at the Town Manager Act, not to describe how town government works. So this really is a good representation, generally speaking, on what happens in town government, but has nothing to do with the Town Manager Act. Did I miss something? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I think all along the committee's had a spirited discussion about how one of the challenges is this citizens don't understand the
Yeah,
Town
but-
Manager Act and the form of government and how that fits. So, again, let me finish going through. So that was one item. Like you said, that was unheld in 209. And then the second discussion has been the long discussion about the powers and duties of the Board of Selectmen. So, again, and this is where I would hope that the committee comes together and tears us apart, says it's good, says it's bad, I don't know. But again, looking at that section, what we talked about from Cohasset, this is what I believe is how our government operates. At the end of the day, this will be my own personal understanding, if that's the case. But again, using other acts as an example, as a representative, and the ones that came from the MMA, those would be those. So that is the other part of 209. The third item on line 209 is the addition and appointment of town manager, which we had a discussion about. This is essentially just capturing what our town manager search just did and put it in writing to be considered to be put into the act. And then the third one was the discussion about financial responsibilities that came from that discussion last meeting. So, on that one, I will say that I had brought to the last meeting because as somebody who was on, or as a signer of the citizen petition, I think this really addressed some of the issues about the financial concerns that petition had raised. So there's a discussion there about the 5-year forecast, and we had a long discussion about that. That one's a tough one. I don't think, I put it out there only as an example. It may be something that I haven't had a decision on whether it makes sense or not. So that's line 209 items. And for reference for the committee, I had included an example of how the town of Hanover 4 years ago put powers and duties in their act. Their act looked a lot like Upton's before they did that. And then the Cohasset one there is as a reference. Interesting enough, Cohasset, I don't think they match our town in terms of its budget, but some of the other demographics match our town somewhat. Community of 7,700, they have a town structure very similar to ours. So.
Didn't the town of Upton a couple of years ago, there was a movement in order to maybe do away with the autonomous nature of the town treasurer? And the community was against that. They wanted the office to be separate and for him or it to have its own power. Yet you're talking about here somehow having a town manager, that particular office doesn't have any input regarding who the individual is report to that person, their finances, how they run their office, what have you. So again, I just have a real
No.
problem with that.
So like I said, I'd rather have the committee look at this and sleep on it, because I think you brought up a good point. I was reading the detail, I know there's actually, again, in looking at town government, none of these things have to do, this is, just has to do with budgeting. And the
I
power,
understand that. You're asking them to identify their budget. They're autonomous. They're elected by the citizens to run their office separately, and include all aspects. We have 2 members of this committee that are appointed by the citizens to an autonomous Board of Health. And properly so, they stand up to the Board of Selectmen or to anyone else who tries to tell them financially what they need to properly run their office. So again, I just have a real problem with you somehow suggesting that anybody who's independently elected should somehow report in any way to
no,
someone.
I'm not saying that.
Well, that's how I interpret this.
Well, that's not what the intent of that is at all. In fact, it specifically states that all those are, like I said, the only thing that I looked at is the last sentence would be different. That would be something where there's an accountability in
The
it.
town manager may require all such officials to prepare reports necessary for the administration of town government. You're telling me that that doesn't then tell the Board of Health, the treasurer, whoever, as elected individuals, that they have to report and provide something to someone who they have no authority, no control over? You don't think what I'm saying is accurate?
No, I'm just saying that in this particular language, so.
Mr. Chairman, our charge has nothing to do with this. Our job was to look at Town Manager Act. Now we're looking at the total town government.
That's fine.
This is not our charge. Anything, if you want to write another request to the Board of Selectmen to look at the town as a town and critique it, that's another thing. Right now, my job on this board is to look at the Town Manager's Act. And only that. That's my charge. And I will do that with the best of my ability. And I will not mingle in town government, which most of those boards are pretty touchy.
Yeah. I would agree. So I had just stated very clearly my intent in putting those out there was not to change at all how town government operates. I was trying to have language that would reflect how the government operates with the Town Manager Act as it is with the lines of authority and such, so.
Well,
So at that point,
I can
at that
appreciate
point,
your
that
efforts.
was my intent bringing it forward.
I
Because
appreciate your efforts.
we have found out, let me finish my statement, and we found out that this committee has found out very long that there's a lot of confusion of how this works in this community. So that's the only reason I'm gonna bring it forward. If it doesn't at all reflect that, and that's part of this process, is to understand that and to get that feedback, I do appreciate that. And like I said, I'm only one vote. And I didn't bring it forward with any intent at all to change how this community's.
Mr. Chairman, have you even consulted with these independent elected officials to their?
No, I have
opinion
not.
For you to suggest that they should somehow report to the town
No,
manager?
I
provide
didn't.
information of their elected offices? No. So doesn't that seem kind of backwards?
Again, my intent of bringing that forward is to try to, I'm offering an idea to only to summarize in our act how this all comes together and works as a government, as it's currently voted on, ruled by general laws, ruled by our general bylaws. I respect fully what you were talking about with the treasurer collector office and other things, absolutely. So the only thing I asked this committee to sleep on when I brought that forward, and that was the item I brought forward, is to understand how that is going to better communicate to our citizens how our government works.
Mr. Chairman, ask you an additional
So that's all.
question. Your sentence, again, about the town manager requiring all such officials to prepare reports necessary for the administration administration of town government. What does that exactly mean, by the way? What does that mean for committees or boards that have no financial involvement in the town government, but rather review? So what would you be suggesting by that sentence those boards provide to the town manager?
So I guess my question, and I don't have an off-the-cuff answer for you. My point to the committee was, I think one of the challenges that we have faced and we've heard all along in discussions is that people don't understand how it works. So at the end of the day, if we end up lining it all out in our final deliberations, then absolutely. So my point to the committee is, what can we do in offering to the act to explain to the voters and taxpayers in a more succinct way so they can pick up one document without having to pour through our bylaws, which to your point cover a lot of different fronts and angles to see it. So that was the only reason for my recommendation on what's missing. It has I absolutely had not.
understand, but my concern then is that I've heard people express that they weren't comfortable with somebody who wasn't elected somehow wielding all this power. So now you're looking to give that person authority over autonomous offices who have to report to them, even if they don't have anything financial to do in the community, but they review zoning board issues or construction issues, but nothing financial. They don't have a budget.
So to that point,
And plus,
Yeah.
you've suggested it without even consulting these independently elected people, and you're looking to commit them through this. Shouldn't you consult them first to see if they feel it's going to impact them somehow performing their elected duties and responsibilities? It just seems very short-sighted.
so in line 209, after I listed what I understand is all of our elected officials, the first bullet says, "The powers, duties, and responsibilities of elected and appointed officials shall be as provided by the general laws, special acts, bylaws, and votes of the town, except as otherwise expressly herein." And then the only one was the next bullet, which talked about essentially a reporting structure. So you're right, if you take that out, if you take that second bullet out, then I've essentially, maybe it said that it only covers. My recommendation to the committee, and why I bring this forward, is I think it is important to have a single document that captures our government, that explains how it works.
But why should the
How it's voted for.
Why should the Town Manager Act be the document that explains town government? Town Manager Act is the duties and responsibilities of one individual hired by the town to run the town. Not a 5-page document that it currently is to explain how town government runs. If you want a civics lesson, then we should hold a meeting to have a civics lesson on how Upton is run. But I don't think putting it in a document, especially a town manager document, is where that belongs.
Which, to that point, is well outside our mission statement, well outside.
I think if you want to give him or her more responsibilities, then that's what we talk about. We give them more responsibilities. If you want to take away responsibilities, then we take away responsibilities. But it's all within the four corners of
Sure.
the document that's before us.
So what I had done in that second bullet was talking about a reporting responsibility only for the town manager's job necessary for the administration of town government, as they're empowered to do so. So that was my only, that's my only point.
No, I appreciate the effort in organizing all this stuff, but my point is that this really doesn't go to the issue that we're here for, and that's the mission statement that we all agreed to. Had we had a mission statement that said we need to describe how town government works in the Town Manager Act, then it would be a whole different discussion. But our
Correct.
mission statement is to make changes, recommendations to the Town Manager Act, and I'd like to keep us on that track.
So at that
Now,
point,
to that point, the suggestion that was made on line 209,
Yes.
that we do a 5-year overview every 5 years. The Board of Selectmen even suggested that they would have agreed to that, or at least the chairman said that would be a reasonable and good thing to do. So I think that's a significant change.
yeah, the two ones that other talked about that were missing were the committee and the screening committee process, which the board hasn't given any direction.
Well, they have to review what we sent them.
Correct, so that and the item related to,
So I just wanted to say something in, you know, sort of in Dan's defense. The document that we're dealing with is the iteration of what they came up with, the selectmen came up with for Upton's Town Manager Act.
Correct.
That is what they came up with. Now, there are examples out there of other town manager acts, and we have in front of us the Cohasset Town Manager Act, which is more inclusive of, it goes more in depth into, you know, it certainly has information from it that we have in ours, but is much more inclusive in it, and that's where Dan is getting some of this information from. So perhaps in the next time we look at this in 5 years, you know, we will include a more comprehensive version of ours. So the one that's in front of us was the first shot at the Town Manager Act. This doesn't mean that ours has every single thing in it that, you know, it needs. So our, you know, job right now is to look at the one in front of us and to put, you know, make some changes to the language that's in it, and perhaps some additions, and maybe people are not ready to quite put some of this significant amount of additions, but let's not be, you know, closed-minded to the fact that maybe in 5 years, we're going to revamp this to a different stage.
Can I, 2 points.
yes.
First point, you've referenced Cohasset. Can you tell me why what Cohasset does is
No,
better?
we've referenced
let me
other
get the question out.
towns.
You can't answer you. Let me get the question out. Why is the way Cohasset run their government better than currently the way Upton does? And by the way, you were talking about making certain changes. Let's remember, we voted and agreed that there needs to be a compelling, substantial reason in supporting facts to make any changes. You don't do it just for the heck of doing it. We've already voted to that. We all voted on that as a committee. But again, I don't understand the reference to other communities. You say, well, other communities do this.
How do you
That
think
isn't
they
enough-
developed
that
their
isn't enough-
first
can I
act?
answer your finish, please.
Yes.
That isn't enough of a reason.
Through the
You
chair.
haven't given me substantial, compelling reasons why, or supporting facts, why what they do is better than what Upton does. Can you tell me that, instead of
So-
referencing
so-
as what they do?
So I will answer the question, and simply put, is when you look at the source document that we got from that actually past town managers, Blythe Robinson had provided to the committee as a reference in MMA, if you look at the town management structure study guide that we started with, or I guess the case study, it talks about essentially how communities had their special acts in their government and how it evolves. In this case, all I'm bringing forward as a concerned citizen is 2 points. First is our Town Manager Act. I think, Scott, I appreciate your point, because it makes me understand is it's important that I'm bringing forward an idea that is not to change how anything has been voted or done in this community. That is not my intent in bringing this language forward. But when I look at that best practices case study from MMA, which uses a charter from Groton, but it refers to other communities in it, and it has some of the communities we're talking about, it talks about how their acts are structured and why they're structured. And I would actually say in simple points that actually having the act address how it fits in the entire community and where those 4 corners are of the manager's responsibility, because that's been a lot of the discussion throughout, is important. I think it's very important. Second thing is one thing that this particular group on our committee keeps on looking past is we were formed by a citizen's petition, and the citizen's petition had several items related to this.
We have a mandate, and that's what certain members are properly referencing, Mr. Chairman, you don't go beyond what your mandate is. If you had wanted to, you should have advocated and got a majority of the board to have agreed to what you're now talking about. A group of citizens who
So-
perhaps aren't even a majority of the town,
I'm sure they're not.
okay? So, but again, you still haven't answered why Groton's way of doing it is better or whatever. You just referenced Groton does it that way, so what?
No, I totally agree.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
Point of order. We
think
voted,
we got
at our last meeting, when we had a meeting, that line number 209 was completed, and we wanted to add a 5-year review. That's what the committee voted on. Now,
No, we didn't vote actually at the last meeting at all. We had no votes. We have actually had no votes.
I thought we voted it, we accepted accepted, didn't we? Well, maybe.
I thought so.
I don't believe we had any votes because we didn't vote on anything last meeting. Because we've talked about how we need to have final deliberations and everybody included.
Well,
We didn't vote. We had
also,
discussion. It's
Mr.
been all
Chairman,
discussion points at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
So
there,
at this point,
this,
Go ahead.
could I know personally a few boards. Planning board. Planning board makes decisions. They don't refer to the town manager at all. They do autonomous work.
correct,
Okay. The CPC, same way.
as a committee, correct.
To me,
They report directly to
town
the
manager,
selectmen.
nothing.
Yep.
Okay. Affordable housing, a
Same.
board with $200,000
Mhm.
or $500,000 don't have to report to the town manager.
I'm not in any of these things at all talking about reporting to
That's,
the town
but you
manager.
see, we're dealing with something that if we start pushing the boards around,
Not pushing the boards around. It's not the intent.
trying to change their statute in the status in the town. It's like telling a police officer, you can't arrest him, he's town manager.
So- so
Certain
to
things
answer
you
your
don't
question-
involve in.
To
You don't
answer
get
your
involved.
question, is the only thing that I put forward in this was trying to describe our town government as it is structured today and how it operates. And any way that the town manager would touch it. And I'm gonna go back to, I think we all should go back and read Ms. Robinson's written testimony because it was very valuable. Is in several places, she had given testimony about how at times it was difficult or awkward or slow to do stuff. And one of our charges and our mission also is to talk about the efficiency of our town government and our act. So at that point, that's what I would ask the committee. And I guess I'm going to get another civics lesson from a lot of elected leaders, which I am totally willing to listen to and hear.
I think
Understand.
one of the troubles that we have with this is many towns that have a town manager act also have a charter, which we lack.
We don't. Correct.
And trying to make an act to fit a charter town is incredibly difficult. Because the charter lays everything out, and everybody fits into a nice little puzzle until, for whatever it is, 5, 10 years, until they look at it again. And we're trying to take an act from a charter town and make it work in a non-charter town with just bylaws.
So I can answer that question because I was very careful in looking at that.
It was a statement, I'm not sure.
I'm
if
sorry,
it's a question,
statement.
but-
Sorry, statement. Thank you. I appreciate it. So is the two that I looked at to do that was Cohasset, which is a special act community like ours, not a charter. And the other one is the town of West Newbury, which is the same as like us.
Okay.
I believe that those town manager acts reflect very closely to how Upton is structured and governed. I really do. I think in the basic structure, I think it really does. So the only reason I put that forward, and like I said, I would actually ask this committee to not immediately just fire off. I want everybody to read it and look at it with that objective. Is if we were going to put that into our act, only to codify how our government works today and to actually keep all the corners of where the town manager does or does not have authority. I think that's my objective. I'm bringing it forward. So we've talked enough about this. I think I would ask the committee to really look at it. I would ask them to go look at some of the reference documents that are brought forward. That was my intent, and I by no means at all want to be stepping on any authorities in this community. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'm listening and reviewing what you suggest, and again, as the Vice Chair has indicated, appreciate it. It's never easy to be the first one to strike out to try and change something. So you kind of put yourself out there when you do that. But I think again to what the current selectmen and past selectmen, and even staff of the office who had the most experience working with the interim and the initial town manager, and I don't have a recollection of them suggesting that any of these sweeping changes are necessary for the government. And so to those in the committee who have talked about best practices, I must have graduated graduate school too early. I don't remember that being said when I was here in the early 80s. But wouldn't you give consequence to what those people who have had the most experience in interacting with the town manager in a professional way, what their thoughts were or what their experience has been, as opposed to someone who has had none of that experience? I'm just curious. That's a question.
oh, I absolutely, I would have to tell you personally, who's somebody who works for the town manager directly, been a direct report for the town manager the entire time.
So the question to you was, wouldn't you give consequence to those people that had the most professional interaction working with the town manager, whether or not they felt there was any need for change, meaning the selectmen?
So my point here with bringing forward several of those first sections we talked about aren't change at all. I'm not proposing change.
You're proposing, I think, that we've already gone over this so many times, that even autonomous elected boards, you now want them to report
No,
the workings of
not at all.
government. You don't know?
No, not at all. That's not what I'm proposing to change. So, that's my point. Like I said, go through it line by line and look at it. My point is I don't believe that a lot of folks in this community understand how our town government works. That's all.
And I probably wouldn't argue with that statement at all.
Yeah, I
I
know.
wouldn't argue. But the charge of the Town Manager Act is not to train the citizen on how town government works. The Town Manager Act is to describe what a town manager's job is via act of the legislature.
It's not an educator.
It's not an educator,
I agree.
it's a law, so.
So the selectmen were here, we talked about, I had thought that one of them had said that he might consider a monthly article or something in the town crier if the town crier was gracious enough to give a certain amount of words to explain what's going on in government. And, you know, Steve had identified too, which we all know, the unfortunate lack of involvement by the majority of citizens because of their schedules. I think it's been said by several members, it's just, I think some of what's being suggested is way beyond what a town manager's responsibilities reasonably should be, but certainly even beyond what this committee's mandate has been voted on and authorized by the appointing authority.
I totally agree. Like I said, I'm bringing forward this on items related to understanding with those sections only to codify how our government operates. Because I've read the town bylaws backwards and forwards a whole bunch of times to make sure I understand it.
Which we have.
So that's the point of the 209. So
I still say the committee thinks that there should be one person who basically runs this entire town. There should be a mayor in this town.
that's the only way to do it. And actually, our community is not large enough to even allow that.
By giving the town manager who is appointed, not even elected. I recall, I think you might have said early on in the committee about one of the things that concerned you about the town manager was the authority the person had, and you didn't even get to elect that person. I remember several members of the committee saying, but you elected 3 people who appointed that person. That's how you have influence over who the town manager is.
Agreed.
It sounds more like there might be a feeling among 2, maybe 3 members of this committee that you want more. You want to be able to somehow have influence over that one individual that's going to do all of this. And that is through a mayor, and that's how you would do it. So,
That's not my, like I said, after going through this process, other than some of the things that have been brought up, that wasn't my intent, so. I think we've had enough discussion, I think we need to read it.
One final suggestion. This information shouldn't go to waste. I think this is something that might fit, as I just said, fit well into the personnel bylaws. I mean, this description,
The personnel bylaws, or
absolutely.
the general bylaws.
No,
you're
personnel
looking
bylaws.
to change an employee, the town manager's roles and responsibilities without even input of the personnel board.
Not at all.
Yeah, so I think that from a description, this goes to job description of a lot of things. It might be fit in there.
So what we'll do is, like you said, we'll get a chance to just go through it and get rid of it in our readings. So, I want to talk more about what Bob had talked about regarding that second reading. One of the things that I don't have at the moment, and one of the individuals that was going to, we're missing tonight, was the language for the 5-year review. So I don't have that specifically. As part of 209, that would go in the review. So what
Pretty simple.
what I would like to hear from the committee, because it's important just to have all the information out there, all the ideas, all the things that were brought forward, creating a single format. And Al, if you don't mind, I would like to meet with you to do that in terms of from a committee administration, because I think it would be helpful for this entire committee to get something and get it out in a format where we can basically see everything that we've talked about and have it there, so we can have a final up and down, a final discussion and up and down vote.
Well, we have, there a matter of, we've gone through it line by line, so we take those particular things that are highlighted
Yeah.
and describe.
So, but we need one final, kind of like a ballot
Sure.
almost,
Sure.
like create a ballot out of our meeting minutes.
Not a ballot, but a discussion list.
You do like a committee, I don't know what to say, a ballot, it's not a ballot. One document where we see it all,
Yeah.
up and down.
Yep,
So for the next meeting,
we can do that.
we can do that, thank you, perfect.
It's another subcommittee.
No,
We
Not
get
at
paid
all.
by the hour or what?
not at all. That's gonna be part of,
Paid it all. You get paid already. Come on. Right. $500 a year.
so with line item 4, number 5 is opportunity for the public to address the committee, review correspondence from the public. I don't have any correspondence that I'm aware of. And any comments from the citizens of the,
Well, actually, there was some correspondence. It was delivered to the board, or to the committee on the 10th, and we had a very short meeting, and you put that in the minutes.
Was correspondence to the committee?
Yeah, on
10th of
August 10th,
August?
10th of August.
What the heck? A month ago.
Get back.
August 10th, huh?
no, that wasn't correspondence, that was handed to the committee at our meeting.
But it was put in the minutes.
Correct.
Therefore, it's a matter of public record, and we haven't discussed it. And it's only proper that everybody, if they have any comments on that letter, should be availed to make comments to it. You see what I'm saying? You see the letter?
Is it in this package that you just?
It's in this big package. Look at the,
Because I
Oh,
only have
okay.
the minutes.
We'll go to
Sorry.
the.
it's the
big package.
last 2-3 pages.
Okay.
August, you got it? Ah, okay.
Yes, okay. Got it.
So before we had this huge discussion about this
Shouldn't be
letter,
very huge, it's probably very short.
should be short. This is one individual's opinion that was submitted in writing. I know there's people on the committee that don't agree with it, which is fine. So,
Well, how did it get attached to the minutes?
I,
Was that just an error, or?
that was just an,
I don't know.
She asked it to be part of public record, and everybody said, well, when are we gonna get to read it? And Dan said, it'll be in the minutes.
Well,
So
why
that's
are,
why it's on the minutes.
why aren't we discussing this then?
What's that? We discussed that, didn't we?
No?
No, we didn't,
We didn't
actually.
discuss this.
Then we should discuss that too.
We should discuss this first because
Sure.
it's July 12th.
Sure.
Yes.
All right.
So in simple terms,
Define July.
we've had the former town manager and one of our committee members have given us correspondence. And I think for each of them, it is their own opinions on certain things related to,
One significant difference, what we pointed out, is that we asked for her opinion on how she felt the job went over 7 years.
Right.
Okay?
And she gave some.
She gave us her opinion.
She gave us some valid information throughout and even pointed out certain sections in the document that we are looking at, which was helpful. But then we got to her last paragraph. In closing, which wasn't very helpful to the committee.
Which wasn't what?
Very helpful to the committee.
To the committee?
To the committee. It wasn't helpful information to the committee
Who
whatsoever.
made that decision?
That it wasn't helpful?
Yeah,
I don't know. Did you read it?
I don't know, I don't remember us discussing whether her.
no, we didn't discuss it.
Discuss her.
We didn't discuss it.
We didn't discuss this letter.
We never discussed the written submission. So,
Did you read the paragraph?
I thought her presentation.
Did you read the
no, the
paragraph?
written paragraph.
I did. I just have a difference in opinion with you.
You think it's helpful?
What a difference in opinion with you.
And I think that's what I think this committee needs to do with this two sets of correspondence, is there's differences of opinion.
difference of opinion. What's the difference of opinion?
Did this document, was this document attached to minutes that were public?
This
Yes.
document was
That
handed
I was
over to.
implanted.
It's a
Planted
if
on
you
this
go on the
plan?
website,
Yes.
Okay,
it's a
just-
matter of public
Okay.
record.
Just as the other ones?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because that was handed over to us in the posted meeting. Because at the end of the comments,
So they were both treated the same?
They were both treated exactly the same. Exactly. And I think there's definitely some difference of opinion
Okay,
here, for
right.
sure. And that's fair to say. But both of these things were handed to us in a committee meeting.
I mean, I think one of the troubling issues is that she starts with, as a member of this committee. That's tough, because it
That's the
sort
issue.
of infers that some others of us agree with it.
That's the
You know,
issue.
And I think the
That's-
point is other than taking that one sentence out, the rest of it is all just an
She's
individual.
speaking as a
As
citizen.
a citizen.
But
The
that's-
problem is that first part,
That's not how this reads.
right.
As
But
a
she
member.
only signs her own name.
Well, no, it says
Oh, yeah.
as a member
But it
of the
just-
committee.
especially that's the beginning
Now
of it.
comes
so.
as far as anybody would read this, that's the opinion
She's speaking on behalf of
of
the
the
committee.
committee, which
And she,
we've been down this road
I'll-
before.
I suspect if we talk to her, she'll say, I apologize. I
Right.
don't know, I have to ask her that question.
But that's how it comes across.
Yeah.
Is that we elected her
No.
to speak on behalf of the committee. If she wrote as a citizen,
Her opinion, that's a whole different story.
more than welcome.
When you say as a member of the committee,
Here's the dilemma, and maybe
I-
we'll go through this one more time.
Yeah.
When you're on a committee, you act as a committee, and if the committee majority votes on a position, then everybody on that committee takes that same position. You don't get to be an individual when you're on the committee. You are a committee member, and if the majority votes against something, then you take
That
that.
could be the dissenting opinion. I think.
No,
I think-
only if people ask for the dissenting opinion. Make no mistake, when the committee reports, it's the majority opinion of the committee that's reported, unless someone asks for the minority opinion. That's the way it
A
works.
citizen, so can.
Anybody can ask for a
citizen-
minority opinion, and then someone will ask,
So
respond to
then
minority.
what do we do?
Then a minority opinion gets
Recorded.
disputed.
I'm going to assume that's why the chairman of the selectmen talked about Robert's rules. I'm gonna
Well,
guess.
that and another
Which is why,
document.
which is why for the up and down vote about the entire set of documents, I definitely would like to have the
I
selectmen's
think
guidance.
anybody looking at that document that was presented can certainly understand why it gives the impression that she's speaking as the committee. And she didn't properly remove herself from the submission.
But it wasn't only this document, it was for another document that was circulated.
What do you mean?
The 5-page document that was.
Town manager's submission, you mean?
No, the
No.
5-page document.
Oh, the one that I sent out?
Yes.
Which was a copy of the two pieces of information that the committee had not seen. What he sent in and what she read. That's why that went out. And if you read the next one that went out, it said, here's the total submission of what was submitted to the selectmen.
Right.
But because this committee had not seen a copy of either one of those documents, I felt compelled to let everybody on the committee to see it.
Blythe's.
No, you didn't. You never saw it.
No, oh,
Yes, we did.
that's
No,
not.
it was never submitted.
We
Were
saw.
you- were
Then
you-
how would Donna Marie would ever?
Because he asked her, it was submitted on the 10th, and how long was our meeting on the 10th?
No, it wasn't submitted on the 10th, it was submitted on
We all got a
it
copy
was
of it.
submitted on,
The date's the 10th.
I have to go back with
Yeah,
that
the
one.
date is
I
on
believe
it,
it was on the
10th.
24th.
We all got a copy of this.
Can you clarify that for us?
It says August 10th.
I just think at the end of the day,
For date, may say on
We all received a copy of this
Yeah.
letter. We all
That was our
received a
short
copy
meeting.
of this letter.
I never received a copy of that.
no, I don't, I
No,
believe she
Yes, August 24th,
Yeah,
handed over on the
item
24th.
number 5.
Yes.
yeah, we all received a
Donna
copy
Marie
of it.
Floyd thanked Blythe as well and submitted a letter in response to Blythe's letter of July 12th for public
Okay.
records.
So there
And I
you go.
stand corrected,
So the
it was
date on the letter is wrong?
wrong.
Okay. But it does say August 10th.
So, at the end of the day, I think the important point of that is, it's just two opinions. And
The difference between the opinions is Blythe submitted it as a requested opinion and didn't represent being a member of anything, just as an opinion. That's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah, also in the second paragraph of what a committee member gave to the selectmen purportedly as her own, but I think reasonably viewed as a document from this committee. In the second paragraph, where she references or represents that she opted to skip over supposedly Blythe, certain observations in favor of sending an unsolicited document, as the vice chair has said, we had asked for her to do that. So
we'd asked for her to come to the meeting, we didn't ask for the written. Which is
I
fine.
recall that we had.
Well, if we ask for opinion, if we ask for input, it includes all forms.
Okay, one more thing, isn't she also a citizen of the town?
Absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely.
So it's kind of ironic to me that certain members of this committee who are clamoring for the community's involvement, and we should take unsigned documents as an indication of what the community really wants, that somehow Blythe is being hammered for sending that in, and that this is presented, again, really as a communication from this committee, as opposed to an individual.
No, it's not a communication for this
Well,
committee.
it certainly is when I read it.
The meeting minutes reflected very
I'm talking about
clearly.
the document, Mr. Chairman, that was submitted to the selectmen. Yes, any reasonable person reading it would think it came from this committee.
Well, I think, I want to make a clearer point that it didn't come from this committee, as reflected in the meeting minutes of August 24th. It did not come from this committee.
I think we all can agree this shouldn't have gone to the selectmen as part of a packet for their review.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Yes.
Well, it shouldn't have, but it shouldn't have been put in the, because once it
I
goes
don't
in the
think
minutes,
that,
I
yeah,
was told to put it in the minutes.
once it's in the minutes,
Matter of public record.
bingo.
yeah.
Right.
And you brought it up in the meeting, I have to.
It was in the meeting minutes.
Yeah, once it's in the
Just like
minutes,
the-
it's-
just like
They
letter
asked,
from the-
but you asked
yes.
for the meeting minutes to be sent to the selectmen, so that was part of the
I
minutes.
asked to put the draft in there,
right.
and for the committee's purpose was just to show progress. It had nothing to do with creating
No, I understand
essentially
the
kind of
purpose.
strong opinions of people's opinions. which I think it needs to be respected at the end of the day. You can strongly disagree, and that is completely your right, which is fine.
And I guess
So
there's
I
no other
believe-
place to put it. I
Yeah.
guess there's no other place to put it.
It is what it is. So that's my point to that. So I think it's a mountain out of a molehill, personally, because it's just two people's opinions. And at the end of the day, we got an opinion from two people, and that's what it is, basically. It's
Right,
just an opinion.
And I think that as citizens, I certainly think that there was language directed, certainly directed at people from Blythe. And I think as a citizen, you know, notwithstanding how the beginning reads, I don't think that there's anything wrong with Donna Marie defending herself.
Okay.
I think that's,
I don't think there's anything more
is
to
that,
discuss.
there's no more to talk about this.
There's a difference of opinion on how it was read, there's a difference of opinion on
Exactly.
how it was meant to
How
be
it
interpreted.
reads.
How it was
How
interpreted,
it reads.
understood.
The bottom line is, some of us agree with it, some of us don't agree with it. It happened, public record, it was gonna be
Get on
seen
with it.
anyway.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate
Next on the
you
agenda.
bringing that agenda. So that leaves us, we said we're trying to finish item number 5, which is the opportunity for the public to address the committee and the correspondence. Do I have anybody else from the community that wants to address the committee? Yep.
I'm Deb Lazars, 10 Farrar Road. I would like to speak, I guess, a little on behalf of Donna Marie, because I've spoken with her. I, being one of the citizens who fought hard to get this committee formed, was talking to her, and she was pretty distressed after this, apparently some email exchange went on, which I'm not privy to what was exactly said. But my understanding is that her document was taken out of context, and that I completely understand what you're saying about the language, but did any of you specifically reach out to her individually to ask? Mr. Holman, I'm specifically, I guess, asking you.
Well, first of all, let me answer that question. It's a matter of public record. It's not out of context. If it was out of context, we would have taken some sections out of that letter. We didn't.
Hold on.
It's the full letter.
Okay,
There's no out of
but my
context.
understanding, because I said, hold on, Don Marie, she said, there's a piece, I just feel like I'm being attacked, and I guess when I look back at when I look back and see what was given to the Board of Selectmen, there are 3 things posted, a summary and 2 meeting minutes. And I said to her, I said, Donna Marie, I don't know why you're feeling attacked. It looks appropriate through the minutes that what was said, that Blythe's statement was made and your statement was made. So I don't understand why you're taking this so personally. Her response is, well, that's not what's getting circulated around my committee right now. My committee has some document that I don't know how it was formed being circulated out of context, and I feel like I'm being attacked. So in defense to her, and I'm going to say something on my own, that it's just very disheartening for me right now to see the behaviors, some of the behaviors that's been displayed on this committee. I've been able to attend and watched many online. It's apparent that several members have not come to this committee with an open mind. Discussions and processing ideas have been challenging, and most meetings are contentious and divisive. And it's just disheartening as one of the citizens who've been fighting, or I don't know if fighting's the right word, but have proposed even putting this committee forward for almost 200 citizens, that this is how people are acting on a committee, that it's come to this. So I'm just really disheartened, and I just feel, I feel for my friend, and I feel for her hard work. I know she's been doing a lot of work and bringing a lot of ideas to the table, and I I don't know, I'm discouraged.
Any other comments from the public? Other items not, the number, next agenda item is other items not reasonably anticipated by the chairperson 48 hours in advance. I don't have anything else that I'm aware of.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second
Thank you. I
that,
have a motion to adjourn, seconded. Thank you.
the best
Wasn't
motion
sure, I
of the
was like,
night.
all right, what are we waiting for?